Hey, what's up, guys? I hope you guys are doing well. I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World and the Black Business School, and I am up and at 'em, and I just wanted to, first of all, start the day by saying good morning and hello, and I want to encourage you to shout out what city you're from. Let me know what city that you're chiming in from. If you're all over the world, what's up on Instagram? My Instagram is The Real Boyce Watkins. So if you want to follow me on Instagram, follow me at The Real Boyce Watkins. And also, I encourage you to follow the Black Financial Channel on Instagram. We do daily financial news and commentary from a Black perspective because we know that Black wealth matters. So give your hashtag B1 in the chat if you are Black first. If you put Black people number one on your list, to put hashtag B1 in the chat. If you believe that what we want matters more than what anyone else wants, put hashtag B1 in the chat. And I think it's very important that we reiterate B1 because today is a special sort of day. I almost feel like this is a special episode of Dr. Boyce TV because we had a tragedy yesterday. We had a tragedy, and I would like to be the first to do a eulogy on the funeral for Nick Cannon's Black activism. I don't know if y'all know from yesterday, something insane happened yesterday with Nick Cannon and his whole situation with Viacom that literally blew my socks off. I mean, literally, I mean, shocked the shit out of me. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe what I saw. I just can't believe it. I'm going to try not to sit here and just be stunned in front of you, but that's how I'm feeling. I'm feeling surprised. I'm feeling very sad. I'm feeling just blown away. I just don't know what to say. And in case you don't know, here's what went down. So Nick Cannon got it. He did an interview with Professor Griff, and one thing I can say is that if you bring Griff on your show, you're gonna get a type of Blackness that ain't gonna gel too well with massa. You know, if you bring Griff on your show, I don't know Griff, but you know he's welcome to come in and talk whenever he wants to. If you bring Griff on your show, you're gonna get something that is not quite made for TV. That revolution will never be televised on a white man's network. And so Cannon brings Griff onto his podcast. His podcast is what was it? It was called Cannon's Class or something. And so they get into a conversation about the interesting, peculiar history of the Jewish community, and they get to talking about stuff that you don't talk about unless you're ready to pay that price, right? They got to talking about, things related to the Rothschilds and Jewish economic power and how that power is used, sometimes unethically, all throughout the world to oppress other people. And Massa came and basically Viacom, the AKA Massa, stepped up and told Nick, wait a minute, we're a Jewish family, like the Sumner Redstone, who runs Viacom or ran Viacom. I don't know if the man's alive or dead. He's older than Methuselah, but Sumner Redstone is a Jewish man. So basically, their reaction was, "Oh, you can't talk like that in our house, boy. You coming working for us. You better not be talking bad about no Jewish people, because they got a whole racket to it. They pretty much, that community has defined anti-Semitism as basically you saying anything that disagrees with what they told you to believe. If you disagree with the Jewish community on any level, then they have anti-Semitic labels ready to, stack on your forehead. And then that comes with a blackballing from the entertainment industry, because we know who runs entertainment. We know, and people ain't stupid. I don't know if the Jewish community thinks that nobody notices that you own damn near everything. I don't know if anybody in the Jewish community is naive enough to think that we haven't noticed, for example, that I think approximately 1/3 of all the Supreme Court justices, you guys may not know this, about 1/3 of the Supreme Court justices in the history of the United States have been Jewish. But yet, to this day, they still not put one single black woman on the Supreme Court in the entire 200-something year history on the court. The Jewish community is what, about 3% of the population, and you got 1/3, and black women are everywhere doing everything for everybody, and you can't put one black woman. Even Obama's old lame monkey ass did not put a black woman on the Supreme Court after promising Dorothy Height that he was going to do that before she died. He promised Dorothy. Dorothy said, Mr. President, can you please make sure a black woman's on the Supreme Court? We've been waiting our turn. We waited over 200-something years. Can you do that? He said, well, absolutely. I can certainly get it done. But when it came time to nominate somebody for the court, Obama picked a woman from the Jewish community by the name of Elena Kagan. Elena Kagan was a white woman. I'm honestly think that she might be LGBT, also from Harvard University, because Harvard also is part of the plan in terms of maintaining dominance. That's why most of your Supreme Court justices and presidents come from Harvard and Yale. That's not a coincidence. And she also is from the Jewish community, and she had a hiring record at Harvard Law School that was so bad that the KKK couldn't have done worse. And when I say that, I'm not exaggerating. I'm not being dramatic. This is not metaphorical. This is fact. This lady hired 32 faculty members at Harvard Law School and did not hire a single Negro, not one single black person in a 6-year period, which means she might as well just peed in the mouths of black people. Like, she literally did an R. Kelly and pissed all over the entire black community. But because the control and the cartel is so real, Obama still picked this racist white woman to join the Supreme Court and put her ahead of every black woman, every brilliant black attorney and judge in this country. That's how real the cartel is. That's how real the power is. That's how so many of your black public figures are controlled so deeply on a very, very deep level. So let's talk about Nick. Let's get back to Nick. How does this affect Nick? Well, it comes back to Nick because Nick Cannon was a bit of an anomaly, and I talk about him in the past tense. I know he's gonna try to come back and make it right, and it's like when you have a side chick and you convince the side chick that you love her, but you got a wife over here that's your main chick, and then the side chick and the main chick get in the same room, and the main chick says, so what's it gonna be? Who you gonna pick? Is it me or is it her? And then you sort of bow your head and say, okay, baby, I'm coming home with you, right? And because you've been forced to draw a line in the sand, right? You were forced to make a choice. What do? What does that man do? Well, first he goes home and he makes it right with the main chick. He makes it right with his wife, his girlfriend, whatever, right? And baby, I'm sorry, baby, please, here's some flowers, I love you, whatever, right? Then what does he do? Well, the next day he gets on the phone with his side chick, calls her on the way to work, right? Can't call her from the house, calls her on the way to work. Hey, let me just explain No, let me explain, right? So here's what the deal is for many of your black celebrities, and this is just reality. It's not even a diss on Nick, because if you go back 24 hours ago, I was very supportive of Nick, but I'm not going to support no BS. I'm not going to support something that don't make no sense to me. So what's going to happen is, first, after Nick issues his broad public apology to white people, his broad public apology to the Jewish community, his broad public apology to Hollywood, he's going to get on the phone with his side chick, black people. And he's going to be like, well, what it was this and it was that. And I'm still black. I'm still blickety black. I'm still as black as everybody. And I'm not saying he's not. I'm not saying, he can go host, his shows and make his money. And that's totally fine. But I think it's very important for you to decide as black people, how are you going to respond to that? Are you going to respond as somebody who expects to be the side chick who's okay with that? Or are you going to respond as somebody who says, I don't want to be the side chick anymore. And I understand, where you put me in your life, but I also understand where I'm going to start putting you in my life. So Nick is not a guy that I think should be canceled by black people. Let me just make that 100% abundantly clear. I am not a fan of canceling Nick Cannon over this weird apology that was a complete reversal from all the big bold talk that happened before. I'm saying, don't have conversations that are above your pay grade. Don't play a game that you're not ready to play. Don't try to go to level 3 when you're really only ready for level 1. That's okay. I mean, it's almost like when you have in hip hop, how you got the real gangsters and then you got the studio gangsters, right? And so the studio gangsters sometimes sound more gangster than the real gangsters, right? Like the real gangsters be listening to the studio gangsters like, damn, he really said that? I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that about the Crips, right? And then what happens? Pay attention, for real. In hip hop, have you ever seen where that happens, like the hilarious moments when a studio gangster runs into some real gangsters, where Tekashi 6ix9ine actually runs into like some real Crips and real Bloods and he's not ready for that, right? Or Tekashi 6ix9ine raps about how he would never snitch and he would take 50 years to keep from snitching, but then he's really in a situation where he's forced to take 50 years and not snitch, and he buckles, right? That's what I see here. That's what I see here, because the thing about it is, being really black, being blickety black, like really, really black, it's as gangster as you can be, you know, because the consequences are real. You really might really for real get blackballed for being too extra black. Why do you think I created things like the Black Business School? It was partly because I was blackballed from white academia for being too black. Didn't matter how smart I was. Didn't matter that I studied with the best people in the world. Didn't matter that I was the only black man in America to get a PhD in finance during the year 2002. I mention that because it's true. None of that mattered. All that diversity talk and all that, like, well, you know, we're really looking for African-American professors that can come in here and that are qualified. And I'm like, I'm qualified. Look, Master, I guess my PhD. I guess all the credentials, Master. I got my dissertation was signed by the best in the world. They're like, oh, you know, Boyce, you're just not a good fit for our campus, and you just don't fit here. It's because I'm too black for your ass. That's what it is, right? It's okay. It is what it is. I'm just telling you that it is what it is, and it ain't what it ain't. It is what it is, and it ain't what it ain't. You can't fake this shit. You can't fake it when you're really fighting a battle and you're ready to go to the end of that conversation. You know, it ain't just about talk, though. Sometimes the talk becomes real. Sometimes the compromise and the sacrifice becomes very real. You know, and I think that sometimes you have people that are caught up in the flash of it all, right? Because remember, pay attention now. It's never been this popular to be black. It has never been, at least not in the last 40, 50 years, it has never been this popular to be black. So you got Negroes coming out the woodwork, being extra black now, super black. I'm talking about people that come out and, I mean, they were literally white and Jewish 2 months ago. And now they're like blickety black, Afro, blackfish, you know, I'm black and I'm proud. And you're like, wow, that's really some heavy black talk. You really sound like somebody who just found out they were black, because now you're super excited about it. But once you find out what it really means to be black, I don't know if you're ready for that life. Because you know how they say, everybody want to be black until it's time to be black. You know, and I'm not saying Nick ain't black. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that his talk was not consistent with his actions. You know, if you pull out a gun and you're scared to squeeze the trigger, then you probably need to just keep the gun in your pocket. And for some of these Negroes, you need to keep the gun in your purse. For some of these Negroes, you need to just slide the gun right back into your vagina so that Massa won't know that you're a threat, right? You know, because let's just be 100% clear. When I'm sorry, I'm not making fun of Nick, because I don't think Nick is all bad, but his job on that show, The Masked Singer, is not much different from the same job held by Terry Crews. Like Terry Crews and Nick Cannon, you know, are in the same genre. They have the same role. They have the same minstrel kind of role. Nick just is a guy that seems to be a little more complex than Terry. Terry understands. And Terry Crews, sometimes I give more credit to Terry Crews than I would give to almost anybody else, because Terry knows he's a coon. Terry knows that he's buck dancing. Terry knows what it is. Terry is the hooker hoe of the porn star who says, look, I know what I am. I'm not going to try to get you to turn a hoe into a housewife. I'm not going to pretend like I'm one thing and then be something else. Terry Crews, he coons all the time, all the way around. At least he's very consistent, right? Nick kind of does the whole, like, and Nick is an actor, and I hate saying it like this, but it's true. You know, Nick will do a really good job of expressing that black side of his personality, and that's fine, but he'll go overboard. He'll do what Diddy does, you know, like super, super, super black, like blacker than you. But when it comes time to really make those sacrifices, you know, some of these guys just back down. And I hate it. It really, it bothers me, because what happens when you do that is you inadvertently perhaps do exactly what COINTELPRO used to try to do to Black people in the 1960s and 1970s. And they probably still do it today. What they'll do is they'll take real, natural, authentic momentum from the Black community. When Black folks really are feeling riled up, when Black people are really ready to go, and they'll grab some Negro and put him at the front of the movement. And it'll be because he's a celebrity or because he's famous. Because remember, Malcolm X had a big problem with entertainers. He even didn't like Dick Gregory. He actually called Dick Gregory a clown. I don't agree with that, because I don't see Dick Gregory as a clown, but I never saw him in the 1960s, right? That was before my day. It's Lena Horne. I forgot some of the others that he mentioned. And he said these entertainers, these clowns, they get placed in front of the movement, and they don't understand what it means to really guide a movement and really make the sacrifice. And you have to give Malcolm his credit, because Malcolm was ready to die for what he believed in. And I don't know, I'm not saying Nick wouldn't be ready to die for what he believes in, but from what I'm seeing, from my view, it looks like he wasn't ready to let go of a good paycheck. Right. And I don't know what that paycheck is. I imagine the amount of money that he would have lost would have been enormous. And so what I would probably say, if I were to have advised him, is I would say, before you bring Griff on the show, Griff is a smart guy, good brother, and it's cool. It's going to make you look really great to Black people. Your side chick's going to love you for this. But before you bring Griff on the show, let's talk about this. Let's really weigh this thing out, and let's look at what Viacom and Sumner Redstone, this Jewish family, is gonna say about you even having a conversation with this motherfucker. Maybe you need to let somebody else do the interview, Nick. Right? Maybe you need, and I know you want to be the star. I know you want to be in the middle. I know you want to show that you bad about it. Everybody want to show they want to keep it 100. I keep it real. Sometimes keeping it real goes wrong. Dave Chappelle told you that years ago. He said, sometimes keeping it real goes wrong. This is an example of when keeping it real went terribly wrong, because I'm going to just tell you like this. You can't bring Professor Griff on your show and have a real honest conversation and still be loved by white people. It ain't going to happen. And I'm gonna just warn you too. Anybody thinking about bringing me in, when people invite me to speak, I tell them, I say, look, I know you're excited because I have my PhD in finance and my knowledge and understanding is very real. Maybe you're excited because I'm a little bit famous. People know who I am, but don't invite me in to speak at your company unless you're prepared to possibly lose your job. Just don't bring me into your university unless you're prepared for the backlash. Because if you ain't ready for the backlash, then I don't want to fuck with you, because I ain't got time for fake people that talk a big game but are not ready to follow through on what they stand for. Sis, I ain't got time for that. I don't have time for you to act like you stand by me one day and then you coming out apologizing tomorrow. I don't have time for that. So sit your ass in the back seat and let somebody else drive the damn car. Like, seriously, I tell you, I swear to God, my speaking fee, when I go speak, my speaking fee is $10,000. That is my speaking fee for anybody who's ever thought about having me come speak. And when people want me to come speak, and I'll look and I'll say, okay, who am I talking to? What am I? You're the director of diversity at Bank of America, and you want me to come in and address your shareholders, or you want me to address your bankers on economics and investing and the economic history of Black people in America? Are you sure you want to do this? Are you really? I don't think you want to do this, because you're probably going to get fired, because after I speak, because I'm not going to change too much of what I say. I'll try to be nice. I've tried that. I've tried watering it down. I've tried putting sugar in it. I've tried to blend it together so that it doesn't hurt white people's feelings too much. But right now, the divide is too great in terms of perspective and understanding for white people to hear an honest Black conversation and not get pissed off because they're white. White people don't want to hear what you have to say. They don't. They don't. It doesn't mean that they're all horrible people. It doesn't mean that you got to run out and say, I hate white people. I don't have the energy to sit around hating people, but I'm just telling you, I tried this. I swear to God, I went to go speak at a bank in Delaware. And of course, I know banking and finance and all that. That's what I've been studying for 25 years. I've taught college students this stuff for many, many decades. So I know this stuff very well. So I was politely explaining reparations to a group of white people and explaining why reparations make sense, explaining why all those years of stolen wealth justifies the reparations argument. Do you know that half of those guys got up and walked out of the room after the first 10 minutes? And that's when I said, you know what, I literally wanted to drop the mic and walk out of the room, because there's no amount of money you can pay me that's gonna make me put up with that bullshit. I don't care how important you are, how much money you got, how esteemed your corporation is. You're nothing but a bigot to me. I don't spend my time talking to worthless bigots. So I think that in this situation, what I feel is that, and I'm trying to say this without making it sound like I'm dissing Nick, because I don't want to be mean to the poor guy. He's probably going through it right now, feeling a lot of emotion. So I want to be sensitive to that. But I can't be too sensitive, because I care more about Black people than I care about Nick Cannon. I care more about Black people's feelings right now than I care about Nick Cannon's feelings. I care more about my community than I care about his career. I don't care about that stupid show. I don't watch the goddamn show. I've never watched The Unmasked Singer. I pulled up The Unmasked Singer. I saw a picture of Nick Cannon standing to a man dressed as a frog. That's what I saw. That's the first thing I saw. Maybe there's something more to it. Maybe it's just people having fun, but that doesn't interest me. That's just not my thing. So here's what I'm gonna kind of break down and explain is this. Look, a lot of people were excited about Nick, I think, for the same reason that many of you might be excited if you have a relative who's on drugs and suddenly they start doing better. Has anybody ever had a relative who seemed like they were gone from the family, and then one day they returned and they say, I gave up the crack, and they start, picking the kids up from school and forming a relationship with them, and they start getting invited to the family barbecues, and they got a job and they're doing better, and you're really happy. And a lot of our Black celebrities are like that. Like they're hooked on crack. They're hooked on the white man's crack, which is money and power and fame, right? So they're all drug addicts to some extent. They disconnected from the family. They're not really, in the trenches with you, right? They're out in Hollywood in La La Land, living this weird life that most of us do not understand. But then sometimes they come back home, right? Sometimes they come back and you're like, oh my God, this is so great. He's really Black, like the rest of us. We're going to give you a big margin of error because we know that you're trying to still get off the dope, or maybe you're still using the dope, but you've controlled it. You're letting it control you. So we're going to love you anyway, because Black people love everybody. We're very forgiving. We're the most forgiving people on the planet. And you'll probably forgive Nick really quickly for this, because unfortunately for many of you, your self-esteem is so low that you're just happy that any celebrity gives you attention because you think that their validation from white people makes them better than you. You too are a white supremacist. Let's be clear about that. Let's not forget that. So here's the deal. So you have this relative that comes home. They say that that they're giving up the crack. They found Jesus. So you saw them at church every single Sunday. Spend time with the kids. In fact, they're not just going to church. They're the most religious person in the church. Like usually the crackhead is the one who wants to now become the pastor, right? The crackhead is the one who's really, really, really into the Bible, right? You know what I'm talking about. Y'all seen this before, right? And so you're going along with it, even though you're skeptical. Like I had a friend one time that was getting off cocaine, and I remember I was listening to him talk about how excited he was to be back with his family, how excited he was to spend time with his kids, how he wasn't going to touch those drugs no more, how he was a different man, how he was going to go to school. He said, I'm gonna get a PhD like you. And I'm like, I don't know if you really know how hard a PhD is, but good luck. I hope you do that, right? And then I asked him, I said, so are you getting therapy? Like, are you getting counseling to help you stay away from the drugs? And you know what he said? I swear to God, he said, you know what my therapy is, man? I said, well, what's your therapy? He said, I get on my knees and I prayed to Jesus to keep me away from cocaine. And that's what's going to keep me off. I said, God damn, he's gonna be smoking crack in a week. he gonna be back on that dope before the end of the month. And lo and behold, by the end of the month, he broke into somebody's house so he could get money to get some drugs. And next thing you know, he was back on that old path. So to me, when you see a Black celebrity that suddenly lets go of the crack pipe for a little while and decides they want to come back home, I think that we should always welcome them back home, because we can use even partial allies. And I love Minister Farrakhan. I give Farrakhan so much credit because he's wiser than me. He's more patient than me. He's just a more beautiful spirit than I could ever be, because I've seen him invite people into his home that I would not invite into my house. I've seen him sit down with people and give them respect where I would have a hard time being patient with everything that I've seen come out of their mouth and all the behavior that I've seen come from them. So I'm still learning how to get to that point, because I admire the minister very much. But what I will say is that, when these incidents occur, I think you have to, at the very least, make sure you understand, you know, the difference between action and words. I hope that you understand what it means to be consistent and also what it means to make a sacrifice. You got many people in your community who will sacrifice for you, you know, that you don't acknowledge as much as you acknowledge some celebrity sitting in Hollywood because they were in some Sumner Redstone Viacom movie. You got Black people that would take a bullet for you, and you don't put them ahead of, you know, even the white people that you read about in history books. You know, you got people like Dr. Claude Anderson, who's been 100% ride or die for Black people to his own detriment, who has lost millions fighting for Black folks, who has been in court for 30 years fighting on the 1866 Indian Treaty that they just acknowledged for the Native Americans. And y'all don't even donate shit to what he's trying to do. These celebrities will call him, again, because celebrities are into flash. They're into what looks good as opposed to what actually is good. They're into what looks authentic as opposed to what really is authentic. So they'll call him and be like, oh, Powernomics is lit, dog. Oh my God, I love Powernomics. It's so great. And when it's time to actually help him pay the bills, they're nowhere to be found. When he has a multi-million-dollar project he wants to pursue, none of them motherfuckers write a check. But they'll write a check to Gucci in a minute. They'll go write a check for a damn Bentley in a second. They'll go buy a $2 million European car and roll up and be like, what's what, right? Because they've been trained on the juvenile and the flashy. Right? Their psychological level is third grade, and we don't need third graders running our community. Right. So I just personally think that we got to kind of look at this. And again, I'm not even dissing Nick. I'd like to hear more about what he was thinking when it happened. But, you know, this reminds me a lot. You know what this also reminds me of? This reminds me of Snoop. Anybody remember when Snoop had his whole situation with Gayle King? Again, same thing. Jumped out, jumped out, talked big shit, but his bank account wasn't matching. Like Megan Thee Stallion said, talk big shit, but my bank account matching, right? He was talking big shit, but he wasn't really ready for that life, right? So Snoop jumps out again in front of all the authentic leaders in the community, right? Because he's Snoop. White people love him. They made him famous, saying, by the way, he became famous by saying we don't love them hoes. He became famous by being one of the original rappers to show the ultimate most disrespect for Black women. But yet you love him, you honor that, you think that's great because you two are a white supremacist. Let's not forget that. So Snoop jumps out there, no dissing on Snoop at all, but Snoop jumps out there and says more than anybody else is saying, right? He's the guy. It's like you ever see the guy who ain't never really been in like a gunfight, but he's the first one to want to grab the gun. Oh, I'll shoot him. Come on, give me the strap, man. Give me the strap, right? They want to be out in front, but and it's because they've never actually known what it's like to be out in front, or better yet, in the government. The first politicians that always want to go to war are almost never the guys who've actually been in a war. The real soldiers are sitting back and saying, man, I don't think you want that. I think you want to have peace. But the people who, the draft dodgers, the Donald Trumps of the world are like, no, we need to bomb them. We need to send in the troops. Let's go get them, right? The reason they talk like that is because they ain't never really been to war. They've never watched their friends die. They've never paid the psychological and physical cost of what it means to go to battle. Right? So the first person that wants to go to war is always the motherfucker who ain't never fought in a battle in his life. So some of the celebrities, and again, I'm sorry, I don't hate Snoop entirely. I like some of what he does, but he jumped out front and he did that video on Gayle King, and he's like, you need to stop that, and he's doing, oh, this is big Snoop Dogg, right? And then he gets to that point where he starts calling her a dog head bitch, and I was sitting back thinking, man, I don't know if that's gonna help us. Well, if you're gonna say something that bold, the only thing, let me just tell y'all a little secret, the only thing that will overcome that level of audacity is more audacity, right? Once you've doubled down, it's like in poker. Like there's a point of no return. I'm a good poker player. I love poker. It's a great game of strategy, math, and psychology, right? I don't like gambling, but I love poker. Because in poker, there's basically kind of a rule that says, once you go hard, you cannot go back. Once you hit the point of no return, you cannot turn around, right? When Snoop called Gayle King a dog head bitch, I said, shit, you went harder than I would ever go, but now that you said it, you can't take that back. You have to ride that shit to the end, because if you try to backpedal on that, they will eat you alive. They will eat you alive, because there's nothing that white people love more than to see a strong black man on his knees begging for their forgiveness. There's nothing they will love to see more than to see a strong black man on his knees like a bitch. And so when I saw Snoop apologize, I said, oh man, damn. Why are you apologizing, man? What you said wasn't right, right? What you said wasn't right. But if anybody deserved to be called a doghead bitch, it was Gayle King, right? Or at the very least, if you're gonna apologize, then Gayle needs to apologize for what she did to Kobe Bryant's reputation, what she did to the black man's image throughout the world, right? So maybe you can work this out. Like if I'm advising him, I'd say, well, okay, here's how we can play this. If you want to keep your job with Martha Stewart, you don't want to lose the Martha Stewart show because Martha's bringing us in good money. So, and we know Viacom is Viacom. They control all this, right? So we know how they feel. We know that that's the daddy, that's the massa. So we want to stay in good favor with massa and still maintain our credibility. So here's what we do. You can apologize, but you must demand an apology from Gayle King. That did not happen. Snoop, not only did Snoop apologize unconditionally, but then he came back and re-apologized. What the fuck are you apologizing twice for? You already apologized once. What is happening right now? I am in the Twilight Zone. My favorite show, one of my favorite shows, by the way, is the Twilight Zone. Shout out to Jordan Peele. He's doing a great job of that. I really felt like I was in the Twilight Zone. I said, he's apologizing twice. Like so that does not look good. That looks like you apologize and they came in and said, that ain't good enough, boy. Like, do it again, nigga. Like, what is happening right now, right? So my feeling is that why don't we hit the rewind button and go back to when you first made that first video calling Gayle a doghead bitch, and instead of trying to be the loudest one in the room and jumping to the front of the movement, which is what happened, he jumped to the front. Like, yeah, give me the strap, let's go to war, right? Instead of you doing all that, maybe you should measure things a little bit. Maybe you should have a little bit of pragmatism. Let me explain. Let me give you an example to help you understand my point I'm making. My father is a shout out to the soldiers in the room. If you are a veteran, please raise your hand. I love you veterans and I respect you so much for defending the country and putting your life on the line to keep us safe. So my father is a veteran. And my father was in the Vietnam War. My father also was a former police officer. My father has killed people. He's had to kill people in Vietnam. He had to kill people. He had to kill somebody on the job. He didn't shoot a black man. He shot a white man, but still, he had to kill somebody. So my father's not a punk. And that's my point. My daddy's not a punk. And one thing my dad used to tell me when I was a kid, you know, is when we moved out, we started in the hood. I was born in the projects. I was born in a place called LaSalle Place. It's still in Louisville, Kentucky. And then we lived in government subsidized housing until I was about 10 or 12. But my father and mother were hardworking people. So eventually we moved to the suburbs. It wasn't a nice suburb. We were still kind of upper, lower class, but it was better than what we had before. And one thing my father used to tell me is this. He said, you don't want to go hanging out in places where you're with people that have nothing to lose, because you have something to lose. You're trying to go to college, you have a bright future, you have a home that you want to go back to. You don't want, if you're a person that has something to lose, you shouldn't be tangling up and trying to be ride or die. He didn't use those words, but he used similar words. You shouldn't be trying to go to the limit with people that have nothing to lose, because a person that has nothing to lose is going to fight very differently from a person who has something to lose. So my interpretation of that is this. You know, I have people that will call me, for example, corporate black people. I have black people in corporations that are still on the plantation. They'll call me and ask for advice. Well, I'll go give a speech somewhere and they'll say, hey, doc, I need your advice on how to deal with this situation in my job. And I will just tell them that I'm not the person to give you advice. And that's because I have nothing to lose. I have no need for, I don't wake up each day thinking, which white person am I going to please and how do I keep them happy so I can keep the money coming. I don't have to do that, right? So I'm not going to give you advice that's going to work for your situation. I'm like the single girl who's giving advice to the married woman on how to deal with her husband. Ladies, if you have a man and you get relationship advice, get it from another person that's in a healthy relationship. Don't get it from a person who's happily single, because they're going to say, oh, they're basically going to encourage you to have a zero tolerance policy. They're going to be like, no, you don't put up with that. Oh, I would never put up with that, right? You don't want advice from people like that, right? So I would tell them, look, I have nothing to lose when it comes to white folks. I've been blackballed. I've been kicked out. I can't go apply for a corporate job. First thing they'll do is they'll Google me and they'll be like, oh no, he's too black. We can't have that much blackness in the room. My God, what's wrong with this man, right? And so I'm not the guy to give you that advice. So I think with Nick, again, going back to Snoop, I think that they can be black, but they have to be kind of in a more neutered form of blackness, honestly, because there's certain things that a person in a certain position simply cannot do. It's no different if you are black and you are a judge, or if you're black and you're a police officer. Like, I remember there was a black police officer who went and made a gangster rap song where basically they were saying, fuck the police. Like, you can't be a cop and be rapping fuck the police at the same time. You gotta make a choice. There's some fences that cannot be straddled in this world. And so sometimes you gotta pick a side. You gotta pick a life. You can't be a chameleon. You can't go back and forth. You can't be an actor, Nick Cannon, and say, well, I'm gonna be, 1 minute I'm gonna be Malcolm X, and the next minute I'm gonna be Terry Crews. Malcolm X and Terry Crews cannot live in the same space. They can't. You can't have a Terry Crews job and still be Malcolm X. Because I'm sorry, that job on The Masked Singer, when I looked it up and the first thing I saw was him standing next to a man dressed as a frog, I said, okay, that's another one of those coon shows that where people love and they make big money because the most of the world is stupid. That's what it is. So here's another point I want to make about Nick. Do me a favor, by the way, if you haven't done this, please hit the thumbs up button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button. Also, we aren't just talking about things, we're doing things. We're trying to build a black-owned movie industry. I hope that you will be a part of this. We want to support black filmmakers making black-owned projects who are not getting the support that they need. And so we do Black Movie Night. Black Movie Night is free, totally free for you to come in. And what I'm asking you to do is help me support these black filmmakers and directors out here who can't get opportunities, who aren't getting the funding that they need because they need us, right? So we're going to have the next Black Movie Night on July 23rd. Rick Mathis is coming in. We're going to watch his film Black Friday, the remix. I'm in that film. I think David Banner's in the film, and there's a lot of other people in the film, and it's really, really good, and you're going to love it. So you can register at blackmovienight.net. Somebody type that in, blackmovienight.net, not .com.net, blackmovienight.net, when it happens July 23rd, 8 p.m. Black Movie Night's really fun. You're going to like it. Okay, so here's what I want to say about it in terms of Nick. Let's get back to this, because I actually thought about some things and laid some things out because I want to make sure my thoughts were clear on this. When I saw what happened with Nick, I really thought about slavery, and I thought about how they would control the masses. By one of the tactics they use, among many, is they would identify who the strongest slave was, who that alpha male was. And one of the things that they would do to control the group is they would break that alpha male down. They would rape him in front of his sons. They would beat him to an inch of his life. They would force him to get on his knees and beg master's forgiveness and apologize, etc. And so when I saw, what happened with Snoop, whatever Viacom did with Snoop to cause him to apologize the way he did, whatever happened with Nick Cannon with that apology that he delivered, which was very, very sad. If you go watch it, it's very, very sad. I thought about that, right? I thought about that whole buck breaking tradition. And I think shout out to Tariq Nasheed. He's coming out with a film called Buck Breaking. Vicky Diller's going to be in that movie too. I was very happy to hear that. And so, that really got me going. And the other thing too that's interesting is if you notice, when it comes to Nick's statement and Nick saying I was wrong, what I said was wrong, a couple things you want to pick up is, one, the people that are telling Nick to apologize never actually proved, to my knowledge, they never actually proved that what Professor Griff and Nick were saying was actually incorrect. I don't recall them ever saying like, well, this is why it's wrong because, here's the actual documented history. Here's what you're saying, right? It's for the same reason that they refuse to debate Farrakhan. They won't debate Farrakhan because they know Farrakhan's right. But when you have power, you don't have to be right. When you have power, you don't have to be ethical, right? So their role is, well, it's right because I said so, because we have power and you don't. And if you don't agree with us, then we're going to beat you up, right? So because remember that the ethical way to handle this, the non-oppressive way to handle this, the non-racist white bastard way to handle this would be to say, we'd like to have a debate with you about this history so we can settle the score. Or we'd like to bring Minister Farrakhan on our show so that he can explain his point of view and we can give our point of view and everybody can hear both perspectives, right? That's what real men do. That's what intelligent people do. William F. Buckley, one of the biggest conservatives, and probably racist of all time, he had a debate with James Baldwin in England. They got together, and big respect to both Baldwin and to Buckley, because they understood you settled it on the court. You settle it on the field. We don't sit back and argue. Like, if I go out and I say that I'm a better basketball player than you, and you say, I'm better than you, and if you don't change your tune, I'm gonna kick your ass, I'm gonna fire you from your job. That's not how you settle it. If you really believe that you're a better basketball player than me, then we get suited up, we show up at the gym, and we play it out, and we settle it once and for all. They won't do that with Black people. I have never seen any prominent Jewish organization willing to just simply sit down with Louis Farrakhan. He's a very nice man. You call him violent and all this stuff. Point out one example where the minister has ever condoned violence against the Jewish community. I know you want to hide behind this anti-Semitic bullshit every single time somebody disagrees with you, but that's still silly. That's like every time somebody say, Dr. Boyce, you're wrong, and I say, oh, you're saying I'm wrong because you're a racist, or you're saying I'm wrong because you molest children and you beat up old people, right? No. If there's no evidence of that, then there's no evidence of that. So again, one of the interesting things about white supremacy is that when the white man has that level of power over you, he doesn't have to explain himself to you, right? When somebody feels that much dominance over you, they're like, and you're like, well, explain yourself. We need to debate. Like, help me understand where you're coming from. And a powerful and oppressive person is going to say, I'm right because I said so. Now sit your ass down and shut up, right? Like that's effectively what they do. That's what they do to Minister Farrakhan, because Farrakhan is a very nice man who has never, to my knowledge, condoned violence against white people or gone out and said, let's find a Jewish person and beat him up. He simply stated his version of life, his version of history. And so what they've effectively done is they have made a law because of their power. Their law is, if you criticize us, then we're going to label you anti-Semitic. I reject those labels. Those are not true. Sure, I could sit around and say, well, my best friend in high school was actually a Jewish kid, which is true, but it doesn't matter, right? I don't even have to say that that's bullshit, right? So I would ask you this. Here's what I want to do. I want to dig in and ask you this. So first of all, I want to ask you, can you show me any place where the critics of what Cannon and Griff said proved that what they were saying was incorrect? If you can't show me a place where they proved them to be incorrect, then that means they're riding on a ship made out of bullshit, right? They're riding their airplane is made out of manure because that just does not fly. The second piece here is this. This is something that I'm curious about too. Is if you look at Cannon's apology in fact, let me see if I can find it and read what the apology actually said. The statement was quite fascinating in that he says, okay, so he basically says, I want to express my gratitude to the rabbis, community leaders, and institutions who reached out to me to help enlighten me instead of chastising me. I want to ensure my Jewish friends, old and new, that this is only the beginning of my education. So you're being educated, right? So that means that you're like the savages that are being civilized, right? When they used to civilize Black people in Africa by educating you, right? Or in the Communist Party, when you deviate from what they want you to believe, they send you to a re-education camp. Or when the leader of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference stepped off code and stepped off script and said, Black people need to learn to defend ourselves with weapons, they sent him to be re-educated, right? So a lot of times what people call it an education, it's not an education, it's actually an indoctrination. It's not me elevating who you actually are as a person by feeding you authentic knowledge. It's me teaching you that my way of thinking is the right way of thinking, and that your way of thinking was was bullshit, that you were inferior before. Now you can match someone who, or come close to matching someone who is superior to you, which is me, right? Because at the end of the day, the question is, should they be educating Nick Cannon, or should the black people be educating them? Because you're the ones who've been killing black people for 300-400 years. You're the ones who've done horrible things to our community. You're the ones who is speaking specifically about that community that's upset. You're the ones who actually run the record labels and the TV networks that have actually encouraged the mass marketing of black genocide through hip hop music. You're the ones who encouraged rappers, who compensated rappers financially for running around calling black women bitches and hoes and encouraging black men to do things that would get them sent to prison. You're the ones who still support many of these artists who are encouraging black men to get hooked on drugs, who are encouraging black men to waste all their money, who are encouraging black people to hate themselves, who are encouraging black men to shoot each other in the head and be proud of that. So you're the ones who probably need to be educated. So this idea that Nick has been brought into a dark room and been educated is a very scary concept. It should be very scary to all of us, because at the end of the day, the education is going in the wrong direction. Who should be educated? The people that were attacked by the savage, or the savage himself? Because the shit that y'all have done, that some of y'all have tried to do to black people, is absolutely 100% savage. And here's what's interesting. This is an indicator of how white supremacy works. While they fully feel that it is their right and their obligation to educate Nick Cannon, not once do they actually consider the fact that they should be educated by you. Not once do they sit back and, I'm wondering, I need to find the Jewish motherfucker out here who says to other Jewish people, we need to go to the black community and be educated, because some of our behavior is ridiculous, right? That would be an unfathomable thought for it on their end. But many of you, like Lee Daniels brags about the fact that his boyfriend is Jewish and his children read Anne Frank 3 times but never read Roots. He talked about that. He talks about how his children, are pretty much part of the Jewish community, and that's elevated them. That's made them smarter. So that's white supremacy 101. White supremacy is when you take pride in being down with them, but they take no pride in being down with you. They take no pride in even, or they don't even consider the idea that perhaps you could elevate them. Well, why would I be elevated by an inferior person? That doesn't even make any sense to me, right? So one of the things, and I can't find, I don't have it in front of me, but one of the interesting things, if you go read Nick's apology, which was really, really fascinating to read, is he actually basically kind of throws Griff under the bus, in my opinion, in the sense that he basically says that I took the video down, that a lot of the things I said were not true, were not consistent with reality. I got to find that apology. It was really interesting. Like, I want you to read it, because he's basically saying that everything that Griff said was bullshit. And I just think that is unnecessary. And the other interesting thing about the apology I want to point out to you is that I'm trying to figure out, but it's like, well, I'm not trying to figure it out. I actually have figured it out, but I want to lay it out there as if I've not figured it out, so you can follow the dialogue on that. But I thought it was interesting that Nick gave a full-throated apology to the black community, to white folks, right? Like, he's fully like in that statement, he ain't talking to black people. He's talking to white people. He's talking to Jewish people. And I found it interesting that he's not talking to you. Like, where's the apology to the black community? Like, where are you apologizing to all the black people who believe in you? Where's my apology? I deserve a fucking apology, because I put my shit on the line. Yesterday, go back and watch my video yesterday. I was so supportive. I was like, yeah, I want to see Nick do well. I think it's great. I love what he's doing. I did all of that. So where's my apology? Do I not get an apology too, because I'm not white, or because I don't have some TV show where people are dressing like frogs and singing, or whatever? Where's my apology as a black man? Because the black community deserves an apology too, for the fact that you took what you consider to be bad information. If you think that what Griff was saying to you was bullshit, then maybe you should have not ever got on that horse in the first place. Don't get on the horse if you can't ride it. Just like don't, maybe you need to apologize, because it gives the impression, no disrespect, Nick, but it gives the impression that you're not a person who thinks through your actions before you do them. Because if you come on my podcast and you start talking something crazy and saying something that ain't true and don't make no sense, I'm not going to co-sign on it until I'm sure. I'm going to take my time and say, let me think about that a little bit before I put my reputation on the line and actually align myself with your point of view. Because there are people that will never get an invitation on my podcast, no matter how famous they are, because what they're saying doesn't make sense to me. So I just will say this: I hate seeing Black men on the apology tour. It's degrading. It's sad, it's humiliating, it's incredibly uninspirational. I know that there's money involved. I would presume that if there was not so much money involved, maybe there would never have been an apology, right? If there wasn't money, so much money, and because white man got a whole lot of money, that's how he controls you. Why do you think, as an expert on money, I'm constantly encouraging Black people to understand wealth? Why do you think I'm talking to you all day and every day about investing for your children? I'm saying this because I don't want Black people 50 years from now to have to live on their knees the way we're living in the year 2020. I want Black people in the year 2070 to be able to say, you know what, it's going to cost me some money to walk away from you, but I'm not scared to walk away from this table. That is what they call a credible threat. In negotiation, you must have a credible threat. A credible threat is when you have enough options where you can legitimately walk away from the table if you don't get what you feel like you deserve. We don't have a credible threat because we buckle and bow every time he pulls out that bank account. Every time he pulls out that paycheck or that checkbook, we start buckling and apologizing and getting locked lip and I did apologize. I did sorry, master, and I did. I mean, I'm saying if you read that apology, it don't even sound like Nick. It sounds like somebody else wrote that. When I saw the time I knew when poor Snoop had got really broke down was in his first apology. He sounded like himself. He was like, yeah, I'm kind of doing this because I don't, but I don't really want to. I'm doing it because I have to. And but I'm still Snoop though. I'm gonna keep it 100. The second apology sounded like it came out of the mouth of Betty Crocker. It was like, I'd like to formally apologize for the actions of blah, 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 blah. Like it was very stiff to the point where you knew that his soul had been yanked out of his body. Right? When a person's soul has been taken out of their body, they don't sound like themselves anymore. They sound like they're basically saying something that someone else told them to say. And I read Nick's statement. I said, this ain't really Nick. Nick did not write this. Nick had a publicist or somebody that wrote it. And whatever it was, I don't believe what he's saying about what Griff said was not true, or that all the things that they said were just wrong and incorrect. Black men ain't that stupid. I believe that he said all that in that statement because somebody made him do it. And I'm okay with that to a point. I'm just saying, stick with conversations that are not above your pay grade. Like, this movement is very serious to a lot of people. There are very serious Black people who have dedicated their lives to all of this. There are Black people who would take a bullet for this. And so you can't jump in because it's trendy and then jump to the front of the line because you're famous, but then buckle every time things get hard. You might have to be willing to be blackballed and lose whatever millions of dollars they were going to pay you to do that show, if that's the life that you choose. So choose, man. You got to choose. So that's my 2 cents. I don't know how people are going to take what I said. I don't know if Nick is going to be offended by what I said. But the reality is that yesterday I was very supportive of what he was doing. And so I am not, going out of my way to attack him. I'm not calling him names. I'm not saying that he should be canceled. I'm just saying that he shouldn't be the leader of Black people if you're scared of Sumner Redstone. That's my point. Because there are Black people out here that are not scared of Viacom, but maybe it's because they're not getting paid by Viacom. But for whatever reason, either way, they're not going to buckle. They're not going to fold. Those are the people that need to be taking the lead. So that's my 2 cents. That's what I believe. Thank you guys for listening. I appreciate you hearing me out. Do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button, share, and subscribe button before you go. Make sure you subscribe at drboycetv.com. I'll be in here. I'm in here every day, several times a day. You guys know this. Also, don't forget Black Movie Night is July 23rd. So if you'd like to join us for Black Movie Night, go to blackmovienight.net. That's blackmovienight.net. Also, Noma Langamushali Moses is doing free homeschooling classes. For those of you that have kids at home and you need tips on how to homeschool your children, Noma Langa does it very well. So if you'd like to join the free homeschool classes, go to theblackHomeschoolNetwork.com. That's theblackHomeschoolNetwork.com. Somebody type that in the chat so others can see it. It's theblackHomeschoolNetwork.com. So thank you guys for listening. It was great. And as you can tell, my voice is a little deflated because I'm just so sad right now. Like my heart hurts. My heart hurts. My stomach hurts. I'm a little bit depressed because I don't know what happened. And I just felt like a lot of things happened yesterday that I don't understand. So if I said anything that was a little bit too harsh, just know that it's my emotion coming out and it's frustration coming out because I don't understand what the hell happened. So anyway, take care. Have a good day. And I will see you guys soon. Be good. Peace.